Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Well, I'm going to take the V911 for another flight. The winds are about 25, gusting to 35, so the weather says. And anyways, I decided to work on the radio some more and resoldered a couple connections, and the switch for the high and low cyclics, mode 1, mode 2, whatever you want to call it. It's still not going to switch anything as far as down here goes on the display, but it does function now, so that's awesome. So now I don't have to buy a new radio, so that's good. So let's take this thing up for our daytime flight here. I'm using my Mobius camera on my hat for recording all this. So right now it's fighting it, so let's, there we go. Now we got our mode 2. And you can tell when you're in mode 1, mode 2, because this thing goes nuts when you're in mode 2. Then you go mode 1 and it slows right down. If you're flying outdoors, especially in any kind of wind, you'd want to put this thing on the higher cyclics anyway, just to give you a better fighting chance for flying. But it's also fun if you want to do some crazy stuff, like something like this. Kind of fun. I really love the V911s. They're probably about the best helicopter for the money for a 4-channel single blade that you can get. I mean, the things are virtually indestructible. I've had a number of these things, and I keep selling the friggin' things for some reason. Everybody wants it when they see it. It's like, that's a cool heli, man. I'm like, yeah, it is. You should buy one. Sell me yours. Well, I'm not going to be selling this one, so anyone who asks can go buy their own for a change. I am going to buy some more bind and fly units though, and I'll probably buy a spare radio down the road anyhow, just because eventually, I mean, you will wear out a radio, you know, it does happen. So I'll just keep a spare radio, make sure it works first, and then I'll put it in storage and just keep using this one. But I mean, for me, I want to have all the different versions of the V911, which is why I want to buy a bunch of bind and flies. I have a ton of parts for these things still, so it's not like I'm going to run out of parts anytime soon, you know what I mean? So you can keep repairing even if you just buy one. Buy a whack load of parts, you know what I mean? And you can keep repairing them when things go wrong. But I mean, it is a rare occasion for anything to ever go wrong on these V911s. Like, I've popped a couple of main gears, but I mean, it took an awful lot to do it. And I do mean an awful lot. Now, I am running the stock battery right now too, so it doesn't get a whole ton of flight time on the stock battery. Maybe about 5 minutes, and it's an older battery too, because I just picked this helicopter up off of a friend of mine, used. And so the batteries, I have no idea exactly how old they are, but you know, old enough, and 1 out of 3 worked, so I'm going to have to order in some of the high capacity batteries. And because the stock batteries, they're okay for starters when you get them in the kit, but you know, the high capacity ones are definitely better for sure. Much longer flight time, about 10 minutes usually with the high capacity ones. So let's see if we can bring this thing in for a landing here. I'll put it on the low cycles. A little easier to land it when it's on the low cycles too, so. There we go. Now, the one thing that is inherent of pretty much any of these helicopters is, you know, your tail will start to swim by itself when the battery's getting low. But I trim my helis out generally in the house, and this way I know they're stable in the house. The other thing for the V911s, guys, is this piece of heat shrink tubing. That's something that I put on there because it protects the motor wires. And ever since I started doing that, I've never had a motor issue ever in the rear end. So, excuse me. Oh, definitely a great fix. But there you go. So there's a V911 in 23 to, what was it, 35 km/h gusts. I mean, not that we see a lot of that actual wind in my yard, because as you can tell, I'm pretty well protected by the trees here for the most part. but it can get quite windy out here, and I've flown this thing in much higher winds and have been able to do it. But I mean, that takes an awful lot of practice to fly in really high winds with these things, so I don't really recommend it if you're kind of a noob. But once you get used to flying this machine, yeah, you can fly it in higher winds, you know, no matter what anybody else says out there, because there are a few people that say, oh, no, it's good for indoors, and, you know, it's good with no wind, it can't fly where the beans in any kind of wind. Well, they're wrong, obviously. I proved that enough times, even throughout my whole YouTube channel. These things can fly in some pretty good wind. Same with the quadcopters. So anyways, guys, that's it for this video. Wraps it up. I don't think you'll see any more V911 videos on my channel unless it's a repair video that I haven't already covered. Then you'll see that sort of stuff. But otherwise, yep, this is pretty much going to be the end of the V911 stuff for me. So we'll catch you on the next one, and thanks for watching.